Hi, my name is Aaron McManus, and you are listening to the Bad Already podcast. I am here with special guest Tess Roy.
Hello, everyone.
This is the first time you're joining us?
This is the first time.
You've been in the booth.
Mm-hmm.
You've been here.
Mm-hmm.
So you've had nods. You've had
I've slowly
moments.
made my way closer to you.
Closer. Now you're here.
I'm here.
You're in the boss's chair.
I am. Some say that I'm. No one says
No,
that.
say it. Please say it. No, say it. Some might say
that I am the boss.
that you might be the boss. No,
Kidding.
you're just kidding. Okay. Well, we attempted to start this episode, and right when we began, the actual boss walked in.
He did.
He's supposed to not be in the office today.
I immediately started sweating. I was like, here's your chair, sir.
So then 30 minutes later,
Yep.
because me and him had a chat, we had to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And then now we're here. We are on the pod.
We made
with
it.
Tess Roy. Before you were Tess Roy, I knew you before you were Tess Roy.
I know. I think we should talk a little bit about our relationship.
About how we met?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Okay. So
I'm here all the time, so please
Okay.
go for it.
So apparently you lived in
What do
New
you mean
York.
apparently?
Apparently.
I lived in New York. I did. I was there. I can show you.
Okay. But I didn't know. But I knew. Okay, so you lived in New York.
Yes.
You came back.
Yes.
You had a job to do,
Yes.
which was to rebrand Mosaic,
Sure.
right?
It was really to take over social media. I gave myself the promotion.
Okay, great. Congrats on the promotion.
They paid me $150 a month.
Well.
Yeah.
And then you worked your way up.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
$250.
So you were under the impression that
That's
you
not
needed.
a joke, by the way.
Okay.
That was gas money, and I didn't even have a car.
What you ended up getting a car, and I ended up using that car.
Talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Okay. So you come to LA to rebrand Mosaic and to do social media, whatever.
Okay.
And then you're looking for help? How do I come onto the scene?
So do you want me to do I'll do the part where until I meet you.
Yes.
Okay. So allegedly I lived in New York. So I was living in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I had kind of had like a faith moment. I was kind of figuring out like what I always believed in God.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really like necessarily believe in the church and believe that like it was important. And so I was kind of going through this like faith journey in my life. And I come back to LA. I was working for Yves Saint Laurent. I was working for Saint Laurent at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was coming back in hopes that there was a full-time job for me on the more creative side.
Got it.
And I was working on the corporate side and the more creative side. So we were having issues, like they weren't ready to like bring me on full time in the wholesale. I was like hustling, going back and forth between both sides. I was getting like shared, and I was getting paid no money, not because I was the lowest person on the totem pole,
Mm-hmm.
but I learned a lot because when this is the thing, when you're the lowest person, you only get as much value as you put in.
It's true.
So I would just ask a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
I would get coffee. I would do the interns jobs because I wanted access to people.
Mm-hmm.
I would do, I would just do that. So when I came back to LA, there was on potential that I would get a better job.
Right.
There was an offer.
Mm-hmm.
When I came back, I was like, no, I think I actually need to like help my dad at Mosaic.
Okay.
Start over. So I turned down a potentially like lucrative job for a very much so not at all.
Right.
So my dad's like, look, you can like come on and one of our guys will give you something to do.
Great.
So I came back and there wasn't really much of a creative team. People were creative. There was dancers, there was actors, there was people in the industry, but there really wasn't like a design team, a photography team, a film team that was shooting videos for church, none of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So MSC was just starting, getting started,
right. Yeah.
just starting to play music. And my background was music. When I came back, they were like, look, we have this thing called Instagram. And I was like, I just deleted mine.
Mm-hmm.
they're
Why'd
like-
you delete it so soon?
Because I had had it for 3 years, like early on, and was just kind of over it.
Mm-hmm. So you've always been this way.
I've always been this way.
Okay, keep going.
I've always been this way. So then I took over Mosaics. I think it was at 2,000?
I think it was at 4,000.
4,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember the screenshot. I took it.
Okay, 4,000. And it was busted.
It was busted.
Busted.
Hot trash.
Hot garbage. It was
Garbage,
bad.
as you say.
The logos were bad.
was bad.
Everything was bad.
Yes.
And that's not a knock to the past. It was culture was moving faster than our brand was.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
So when I came back, I asked Mariah, I was like, do you know anyone who does graphic design? Anyone who can just help me? Be like an intern, part-time, just
Mhm.
help with design.
Mhm.
She was like, oh, my friend Tess goes to FITM. And she had just met you maybe a little bit before in that
Mhm.
summer.
I went to her Bible study.
Yes.
Mhm.
And she's like, she might be a hot mess, but like, you'll love her. She's great.
I was.
And you had purple hair. We're going to find a photo of this. You had purple hair and you were from Victorville.
Where you got to out me like
I'm
that.
sorry, the desert. And we did a shoot over Easter. And I was like, what's Victorville like? And you were like, you always ask me what Victorville is like. It looks like
Easter.
this.
Yeah.
Remember the Joshua Tree
Oh,
shoot?
yes.
And you're like, look, this was like
Yes.
my backyard.
Yeah. A little
Rocks,
sad.
dirt,
Very like, it's very sad.
It's sad.
You were like there for 2 hours and you were like, I hate Joshua.
I drove
Tree.
up and said, I hate this place.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Anyways, okay. So
So
then,
Mariah introduces me to you.
mhm,
You started becoming like, it happened quick.
it
Intern,
did.
part-time,
Yes.
full-time.
Yep.
You were full-time before I was full-time.
Mm,
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
I think so.
Okay.
Because me and Andy started this, and Carlos started on the same day, and you were already on staff.
No. Carlos and I started on the same day.
So
You
me and Andy started on
did.
the same day.
Yes.
You and Carlos started first. Me and Andy started second.
Okay.
Okay. So we get linked up, and then we just start going in on graphics.
Totally.
And then how quickly into that did you meet Eric, your
Mm,
husband?
Like probably 6 months later.
No.
Yes.
So end of summer to then December or January.
Yeah. We met in November.
That's not 6 months,
What
my
is
girl.
that?
That's 3 months.
No.
August, September. I didn't move back till October
Okay,
full,
fine
or
then,
September
fine then.
fully.
3 months. 3 months.
3 months. But we did hang out at MTN.
We did. I met you there.
So we must have met in the middle of the summer, and then
But I met you before you moved back.
we did at MTN.
I shook
We
your
hung out.
hand.
Shook my hand.
I was like, hey, nice
I
to
have a
meet you.
photo of the four of us, me, you, my sister, dad, escaping the camp.
Yes. But that was the next year.
That was
that
the
was-
next year.
That was when we rebranded everything and we're like, we can't call it this. We should call it MTN.
Okay, so we weren't hanging out.
Yes.
Okay, so then we start working together,
Mm-hmm.
and basically everyone hated us.
Yes.
There was a season.
We were sort of the police.
What do you mean?
I mean, everyone was doing whatever the heck they wanted to.
With the brand,
Yes.
making shirts.
Making shirts,
Making
making
merch.
graphics,
Graphics.
let's print this out, let's do a flyer, let's do this. And
Yes.
so we were like, stop
Yeah.
it, please.
Stop it, please.
Please, sir, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Yes. So then we really started taking not like tight control, but more control over the brand.
But to in contrast, we were like the regime,
Okay.
and we were tough,
We were tough.
and we were figuring it out
Yes. Agreed. And so then, well, yeah, we were with each other every day,
every day.
every single day.
Every day, and then we got an office, and then we were like in the corner of the office, always on a computer, always
Yes, it
pulling
was just the
inspo.
two of us for a year.
When did we
2
find
years?
Nick?
I think like 2 years in.
2 years in.
Yeah, I was like, why are we doing this by ourselves?
It was tough.
It was tough.
And then we convinced them that if they want things, they need to give us things,
Yes.
like
Like a Nicole.
a Nicole.
Yes.
It's basically someone who could help with the workload.
Totally.
Because
And
I
she
didn't
was like,
really design.
she like, it was sort of helpful at the beginning, but she was like a classic photographer.
She was a content creator.
Totally. And so we were like, yes, but we need help with graphic design. Can you learn it? And she did.
It was kind of crazy too. We're hopping a little bit in the first few years because we're figuring out how this story. And this is bad because her husband's my best friend. Tess is my other best friend.
But I was your best friend first.
You were my best friend first. So wait, so you meet Eric,
Mhm.
and then you're like, look, he doesn't get our relationship.
Because you were my best friend
Yes.
before I met Eric.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I was like, so listen,
Yeah.
this relationship between us is a thing already, you and me. And I'm like, you gotta get it right with Aaron. I was telling Eric that.
Yeah.
And so I begged both of you separately.
Let's sit down and have a breakfast.
Yes. I'm like, just give it a shot. And both of you are kind of like, both of your energy was a little tough.
We were young, stupid, arrogant,
Mhm.
elitist,
Yes.
and mostly just stupid.
Okay. Circling back to
So-
stupid.
so-
Got it.
But me and Eric sit down to have breakfast,
Uh-huh.
and we sit down across from the Scientology Center
Scary.
because I was like, look, like if this goes bad, I'll just give them to them. I'm kidding. Sorry.
That took a turn. I was not
So we
expecting.
sat down, we hung out, and we hung for hours. We ended up hitting it off. We became really close.
Thank
really fast.
God.
Thank God.
God.
And then you guys quickly got married, maybe within the next year, right?
We were engaged in like 3 months following.
But then when did you got married the next November?
Yeah.
Yeah. So within a year,
All
you
in
guys were
all,
married.
like-
Yeah. So that is not recommended. Would you recommend it?
No, actually.
No, right?
No.
No. It's something we laugh at. I
We
was with
do.
Eric last night. So we had dinner last
Yes.
night. We do a dinner every
Yes,
week.
we say this, and I hope this doesn't sound like scary or bad,
Right.
but we say if we didn't do that, we probably wouldn't have made it. Like Eric and I, if we would have waited longer, we probably wouldn't have made it.
Okay. But
It's hitting you.
it is hitting me. It's hitting me. You've never said it like that before. You both say the same things. You guys
Yes.
are really open about
Yes.
your relationship.
Yes.
Um,
Rocky start.
Rocky start. But now you guys have a daughter
Yes.
named Rooney.
Rooney,
How old is she now?
and you're actually her godfather.
Godfather. I
Yeah.
love her so
You're the
much.
godfather. What'd you say? What'd you ask me?
I love her so much. I said, how old is she now?
She's
Almost 18 months, right?
like 15 months or something.
15 months. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Eric is awesome.
Eric is awesome.
Eric is awesome.
Yep.
It's crazy how it worked. It all worked out.
You still like me more.
I like, you, to be honest, this is how it is. I like your daughter more than both of you.
That ain't right.
It is right. I like, because this is how I look at it. She's half of both of you into one person.
I get that.
So of course she's going to be my favorite person.
That's actually very sweet.
It's very sweet.
Yes.
So here's the deal. We find Nicole 2 years in,
Yes.
and we find her through the very same vessel we were building, which was Instagram.
Exactly.
She
And
found us through
I was running the social media,
Yes.
and she DM'd me.
Yes.
And I was like, well, okay. Like I looked at her profile and I was like, she's really into nature and stuff. Kind of weird, but
Yeah.
we could work around. Work around that.
Yeah.
And so I DM her back and I'm like, hey, would love to grab coffee with you.
Yeah.
Let's hang out. And then she responds, I live in San Diego, so let me know when there's a good time. And I was like, you live in San Diego? This is already not helpful.
This doesn't work.
This is
for
already
us.
more work.
I thought she was in San Francisco.
No, she had just recently moved back.
From San Francisco to San Diego. Okay,
exactly. And so then I was like, all right, let's see if it happens. And so I was like, are you free on Thursday? And she was like, I am. So she drove up 2 hours to do a little meet and greet, and we hit it off. And it was like,
That's
wow, this is awesome. And I was like, I want to encourage you to come on the team and start the internship. So she started the internship. And that sort of involved into, she did Mosaic College, and then we ended up hiring her later on.
Yeah.
So it was
she
awesome.
was hired before Mosaic College.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Because we created.
My timeline is a little sketchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So should we talk about your Instagram handle? Like when I met you?
No.
We should talk about it.
Aaron.
No?
That is so.
I didn't realize what a mess you were when I got you.
I was a hot mess.
Hot mess. But I was too.
Yeah.
And they were figuring things out with both of us.
Totally. And we were like, are we doing this together? And we were like, yeah, let's figure it out.
And then when Nicole came, it was like amazing because then there was the three of us.
Totally.
And then I was trying to do other things.
Yeah, but even before Nicole was Austin.
Austin was before Nicole? No.
Nicole was around before I was, and then I came on staff.
But were you? Oh, you did?
Yeah. Nicole's an intern.
Nicole interned before I came on staff, and then
Wow.
It'd be like that.
she was working for Yahoo.
Oh, yes.
Where the heck is
Yahoo.
Yahoo?
Okay.
Where is Yahoo?
So then Austin comes in.
Yes.
St. John.
Yep. So
And he
now
was-
it's kind of the four of us.
Then it's the four of us.
Yes.
And I remember though, because let's go back in time a little bit.
Okay.
Before we met Nicole,
Mm-hmm.
I was taking the photos.
Yes.
And they were hot garbage as well.
they were
but
better.
They were better than the iPhone photos they were taking before.
I was like, we can do something.
We can do something with this.
Yes.
So, and honestly, it was like, it was like you dribble a basketball and hope that you find other people who play basketball.
Exactly.
We bought a camera.
Yep.
And we're like, we're going to find someone.
Yeah.
To.
You were like, hopefully if I hold this device, someone else that holds that same device will find me.
Will find me.
Yeah.
And we did.
It worked.
We met a couple guys.
We did.
And we started a photography team.
Yes.
And
they actually like really knew what they were doing.
And so I was like, hey, just use my camera.
Yes, exactly.
And you don't need
And
me.
then eventually people were like, oh, I have my own camera. And we're like,
Yeah.
amazing, even better.
So one thing that we learned, I think, in that situation was that don't hide the creatives.
Exactly.
Don't hide them.
Exactly.
Don't put them in the back room.
Mhm.
Put them in the front.
Yep.
Because you need more creatives.
Exactly.
You're always trying to be more creative.
Mm-hmm.
And you need new people.
Exactly.
So we would have the photographers discreetly, but
yeah,
obviously
in the wild.
Shooting in the
Mhm.
lobbies outside, connecting with people, taking portraits.
Exactly.
They were a part of the entire experience.
Mhm.
I mean, we've gone as far as that evolved really to us putting all of the creatives in a box for a conference.
Exactly. I was going to ask you about that.
Okay, should we wait?
No. It's a good time.
Okay.
It's a good time to talk about.
Which conference? That was Into the Unknown?
The
No.
one after that. The one after the Future of.
It was the future of.
It was.
The Future of.
That was probably the coolest thing we did for that conference.
Yeah, we had the idea, and I was like, look, we all the time. The creatives are some of my favorite parts,
Mhm.
right? You get to see the music.
Mhm.
If you look hard enough, you can see the production because
Right.
they're all usually wearing black and hiding.
Yep.
But then you see the speakers, but you don't ever see the creatives. You don't ever see the
Right,
people that are like hustling to make everything happen.
Or staying up late in the back room to like edit the
Who
video.
don't sleep for 3 days while we do
Exactly.
conferences,
We
right?
love them.
We love them. And so
Mhm.
I wanted to highlight them, but I also wanted, one of the biggest questions we get is like, how do you build this kind of a team?
Totally.
And when we started the first conference, I think we had started just hitting a stride with creative.
Totally.
We were like, okay, we're doing stuff that other people
Like we
are looking
integrated
at.
some merch pieces and we were like, oh my gosh, our
Yeah.
our
First-
first merch collection,
Yeah. And to the point where the last conference, we literally rented a storefront and it had a line out the door for
Yes,
3 days. And
exactly.
people were like, oh, we don't understand how this is happening, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
And I was like, you want to understand how this is happening? We had to sell merch to pay for the stage that we wanted.
Exactly.
So it was like, this has to sell
Uh-huh.
if we're going to let other things be
And
cool.
it did.
And it did.
Mhm.
And it was really cool. And so my thing would be this. What are some things that you learned
Mhm.
in the beginning that you would do different?
Yes.
And then I have a bunch of questions for you.
Okay, cool. So I would say, well, it took forever, number one, to get
Yeah.
Nicole. And I would say that took too long. And there was a moment where I was like, oh my gosh, why are we doing this by ourselves? Like, this is so, and I think
Okay.
for me, if I ever get in like a creative rut or if I ever get stuck,
Yeah.
I know like the fastest way for me to burn out, and I hate that word, is to do it by myself. And so I'm like looking at this 2 years and I'm looking at other teams like worship team, production team, like they all have people. What am I
Yeah.
doing? What am I doing?
Yeah.
And so we started the buddy system, which was like
buddy system.
find literally one other person
Yeah.
and start doing life with that person.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun. And so like one of my things of like who I look for people is number one, that they're willing, yes.
Yeah.
And number two, that I enjoy them.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoyed Nicole. And so I was like, let's just do this thing and let's figure it out together.
Yeah.
And we did. And she didn't know graphic design, but I didn't really know graphic design, to be honest, when I got hired.
Yeah. I was.
So like there's also that whole thing, you know?
we had to literally hire another Tess who actually was a legit graphic designer.
Yeah, yes, it's true.
To
And she
tr-
was
to
so
tr-
much better.
to
And she
train-
helped us.
And I was like, hey, I need you. And she ended up being the little sister of one of my good friends in New York. And
Yeah.
he was like, can you please grab coffee with her? She just
Yeah.
moved to LA, back to LA.
Yeah.
And then I was like, hey,
So at
would
one
you
point,
ever want to work with our team and just teach
yes.
our team? And she was like, she's so sweet. I would
Yes.
love to.
Yeah.
So
And
she
she
would
did.
literally just show you how to do her jobs.
Yes.
And you learn so much.
I did. I'm like, wait, how'd you do that again? And she would just teach me all the little fine details about it, which
Yeah.
was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so I would say this. So the first question was, what would you tell your 21-year-old self? You started working
Oh,
for us
gosh.
at 21, right?
Like literally 21.
21 years old.
Yeah.
So what would you tell yourself?
Oh my gosh. Scary.
Don't do life alone.
Yes. Don't do life alone and find people to do life with that you enjoy. Like
Okay.
you enjoy them.
Okay. I think those are two great things.
Okay.
Because I think people who surround you oftentimes either sharpen you or make you more dull,
Mhm.
right? Your friends, when you came to Mosaic at that age, do you feel like those were all still your same friends?
There are a couple,
Yeah.
but most of them no.
Okay. Why do you think that is? Do you think it was church? Do you think it was age? Do you think it was?
I think a little bit of both. I think so I was new to LA, and so I
Okay.
just kind of latched on to anyone.
Yeah.
And so I don't think there's a problem with that necessarily.
No, because
But
you
I-
have to make your first
Yes.
friends. Yeah.
And then you're kind of like, oh, maybe I wouldn't choose you next round,
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
finals or whatever. Top
Take you
three.
to the finals.
Yeah. Or
Basketball
top
reference.
8 in MySpace, whatever,
Okay.
whatever you want to do.
Oh gosh.
But then I do think that those people,
Your close friends on Instagram.
well, yes, exactly.
Yes.
But I do think those people always introduce you to people that you'll connect with more, or like, oh my gosh,
Yes.
we have a way better relationship. And so I
Yeah.
do think, and part of it was missional.
Yeah.
And so I think some of those people were like in a season of life where, they're just going to school and they're like, need to find a church to plug into for the time being.
Right.
And then you meet the people that you're on mission with, which is
Right.
like a totally different thing.
Right.
And I think that part, you just have a deeper relationship with them right off the bat.
Yep.
Which is like when I met you, it's like, oh, when you're on the same
Yeah.
mission, you just go faster
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. And you're probably the only person who could deal with me at the time.
What do you mean?
You were personalities wise, we were pretty similar.
Yes.
Like we could work really hard,
Mm-hmm.
really fast,
Yes.
stay up late,
Mm-hmm.
work early.
Mm-hmm.
Neither one of us were waking up early back then.
No, but now you wake up so early. I don't get it.
I think it's just getting older, to be honest. Like
Oh,
as I gotten
yikes.
older, I just like today I woke up at 5:30 and I'm like, I don't understand.
Stressful.
I
But keep
don't-
going. Keep going.
So anyways, so I think a lot of it was finding people that, a rule that we kind of adapted in the last, I guess, how long have you been on staff?
7 years, almost 8.
So I've been on 7 years, I think, almost
Mhm.
7 years.
Mhm.
So one thing that we kind of adopted was you don't have to be on team with people you don't like.
Yes.
You gotta like them.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to be best friends, but
Totally.
you gotta like appreciate being around each other's company.
Totally.
I think that something that gets kind of complicated is church is for everybody. And yes, it is
Mhm.
for everybody to go.
Mhm.
But when you're building teams, like sometimes you got to use what you got,
Mhm.
and sometimes you got to like create teams where it's just fun to be on.
Totally.
You know, and the more fun it is to be on them, the more like joy attracts other people.
Yep.
Kindness attracts other people.
It's a gravity.
There's gravity. There's an ethos. There's a gravitas to it.
Yep.
So here's my thing. Here's another question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you balance giving direction and respecting your team's own creative voice?
Mm-hmm.
But how do we manage and what's the workflow like with our creative
Totally.
teams?
Yeah.
Because now I guess the first iteration would have been me and you, then me, you, and Tess.
Mm-hmm.
Me, you. It was crazy. It was AT&T. It was Aaron, Tess, and Tess. And then Tess moves to New York.
Yeah.
And then it's me, you,
Nicole.
and Nicole, and then me, you, Nicole, Austin.
Totally.
And Austin was a completely like curveball because he was now creating video.
Yeah. Exactly.
'Cause
And we were like, what do we do?
Everything
with this
for us
guy?
was print, digital, but 2D.
Yeah. And social.
And social.
Right.
Was digital.
Mhm.
It's fine. I'm right. You're wrong. What's new? And then Austin comes in,
Mhm.
makes amazing videos,
Yep.
but didn't have a team yet.
Correct.
And then quickly,
Mhm.
but his team built faster than our team.
It did.
But why do you think that is?
Well, I was going to ask you that.
Well, I do think once you start opening the door to
Mhm.
creatives,
Mhm.
it starts to widen
Totally.
because people are talking about it more. People are
Well,
seeing
and
it
you
more.
like see that person. So when there was just photography, the other photographers, they'll see that person and say like, I can see myself in that person. But when then you start branching out to social or video,
Yeah.
more people relate and they say like, I can see myself in that person.
Right? Yes, I agree. So how do we balance giving direction and respect your team's own creative voice? So 3 iterations. Now we're probably on, then this would have been, I guess we had done 4 conferences. During our 3rd and 4th conference, it was probably
Mhm.
the strongest we've ever been creatively.
Totally.
And there was a huge leap from 2 to 3
Yeah.
and a gigantic leap from 3 to 4.
Exactly.
You know, because we do
Yeah.
most things in-house.
Yep.
At least from the concepts. And then if
Totally.
we need people, we'll bring people in that
Yeah.
have production. Well, I don't know how to build a stage. I just come up with the
We need
ideas.
somebody to like actually fabricate it.
But from, I think it was the closing video at the 3rd conference where I was like, oh, everyone's crying
Which one was that?
with all the windows opening and closing.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, Austin? It was like on the Apple desktop,
When you like double click and it zoomed in.
and they started opening up.
Dang, that was a really good video.
We should link that video
We
in
should.
the YouTube.
Yeah.
And the podcast.
Mhm.
But when we did that video, it was like, oh, we've done something that
I think we like both sort of sat back and we were like, this is our new like ceiling.
Yeah, I was like, this is our new ceiling. But also, we've just achieved something I don't think anyone had achieved.
Totally.
Totally. And so then we go into our 4th one,
hmm
and I'm pretty much not on creative at this point. I'm around.
You're still like our advisor.
Advisor.
So like, hey, do you like this? No.
Yeah.
Or like, do you like
Yeah.
this? Yes, you're on the right track.
I would come in at the end and help shape things.
Exactly. Fine tune it.
But I think the way we would balance giving direction and respect is that I would come in and as like an editor.
Right.
And be like, hey, I want to trim this out. I think you should get rid of this. I think
Mhm.
from anything, from lights or stage
Yeah.
or environment. I'm not looking at the entire environment.
Yep.
But, you're in it with graphics.
Right.
Austin was in it with video.
Mhm.
Then he found some animators.
Right.
And then, and then we're going to photographers and guys who are shooting on film. And like the entire thing was evolving.
Mhm.
And then COVID happens.
Right.
Right. And then we hired new creatives. We
Totally.
have the biggest creative team we've ever had.
Right.
And a lot of it was just going, now I'm 33. And how old are you?
28.
We're not old by any means.
No.
But we're not 21.
Right.
And so we're now like operating in mediums where I'm going, I don't want to work there.
Right.
I don't want to work on TikTok. That's not that isn't
sure.
what drives me, right?
For sure. And I would agree.
But it doesn't mean I don't value it.
Right.
So
or know that we necessarily could use it.
And we could use it.
Yeah.
And so we started bringing on new guys
Mm-hmm.
and we give them a lot of the freedom.
Totally.
But I look at it as this, when we hire creatives or when we bring creatives on team, we're really giving people a creative lead.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to be like a creative director, I'm
Mhm.
really just a placeholder
Okay.
in that way. Like
Okay.
at the end of the day, it's going to look how I want it to look,
Mm-hmm.
but how like a certain reel or a certain post or certain design,
Right.
I'm trying to build in cultural values of like, if we would follow all the churches on a different account and if they did it, we wouldn't do it.
Correct.
We're
It'd be like, oh, we did this too
This is-
too much.
This is the board we're not allowed to touch.
Exactly.
And so we would always be looking, going, we're never going to steal from people in the church.
We want to innovate.
We want to innovate. We want
Exactly.
to lead. The
Mhm.
goal was always be the creative direction for the entire church.
Right.
Be the creative direction for the entire world.
Exactly.
Like let's get Apple to start stealing ideas.
Yes.
Let's get Adidas. Let's get
Which
which they
some of
did
the
sometimes.
companies have.
And I met one of them and I was like, you know what you did.
Yeah.
And they laughed.
And they did.
And
yeah.
they knew.
That's pretty cool. That's
And
a
it's
pretty
cool.
cool thing to say.
It is cool. And
Yeah.
it isn't bragging. It's going, I think we got to a place where our young guys were so good.
Totally.
It was world class.
Yeah. But I think like the collaboration between everybody, like between all the teams, that was something that really worked well for us. And so the feedback mechanism, I think it's just the honesty part. Like that's
Yeah.
not the right direction, or
Yeah.
you're on the right track. Let's refine, because that's
Yeah.
really what that question is about, right?
Yeah, it's really about it's really about how much control do you give them.
Yes, and
Yeah.
we give them a lot of control
I would say we give them like 90% of the control.
for sure, unless it doesn't work,
Yes.
which it's like just let's time out on that completely,
yeah.
and like let's start over.
It's pretty rare.
Yeah,
I would say that ever happens now.
just I had a couple last week.
Did
but,
you?
Yeah.
You're shooting things down left and right. Okay. I think a lot of it is like we trust that their aesthetic is now evolved
Totally.
and in a different direction. So a lot
Exactly.
of times we bring on kids who have an aesthetic that we appreciate and we like, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they bring that aspect, and then we kind of bring it into Mosaic and
Mhm.
kind of adjust.
Mhm.
What is your creative goal? I don't want to get there yet. How do you stay inspired? That's something we dealt with a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
every day.
I do like this question.
Okay.
I look for things in my everyday life that inspire me.
Okay. Give me an example.
Let's see. So I love magazine stands.
Yes.
My go-to.
Love magazine stands.
So I love doing a little pit stop, getting a cup of coffee, and then picking out and just giving myself time to like look at what's inspiring me in the magazine stand. And so sometimes I'll just like pick out like 4 to 5 magazines and I just read them. And I'm like, what is print doing right now
Yeah.
that we could do or we can adopt?
Yeah.
So I think like that is one of the things. And then I think like people are a huge inspiration.
People are huge inspiration.
And I think like what they're going through, how they overcome it, that's like really inspiring. But also like having a daughter, that is creative fuel for me, because I'm like, how do I be the best creative mom to her,
Yeah.
or not even just creative, like how do I be the best mom to her?
Yeah.
I love traveling,
Yeah.
which is like, that's been one of the hardest things, not being able to travel as much, because that's really where I like love. I love other cultures and I love other like textures of life. That really, really inspires me.
Yeah.
But those are just a couple things.
I remember during COVID, yeah, I agree with all the things you're saying.
Mhm.
I mean, even if I didn't, I guess it wouldn't matter. It's how you stay inspired. But I do think, that's something I think we picked up from our boss, from my dad, and he's inspired by a flower on the side of the road. Like
Yeah.
he's always looking for inspiration in his everyday life.
Yeah. And he'll
So-
stop, take a picture, and then have this like brilliant long train
Yeah.
of thought. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, and I think, you don't have to live in a big city to be inspired,
Totally.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I think during COVID, one of the most inspiring moments I had was when we went out to Jackson Hole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The band had a house
Mhm.
that they were recording the next record in.
Mhm.
And it was awesome because they had taken time. They had all flown in. They had all just had kids or were about
Yeah.
to have kids.
Yeah.
Mariah was pregnant
Mhm.
and hadn't told anyone.
Mhm.
Did she tell anyone?
I think we knew.
Well, I had to tell the videographers
oh my
that we
gosh,
had. And then,
that's right.
so there's a creative house and then a musician's house.
Mhm.
And I had to tell Brian, I was like, you're not allowed to follow her. The whole point was to reality TV, follow their every
Right,
move, of
exactly.
like how they're.
And you're like, this could give it away.
Give it away.
If
So
she
like,
has to go to the bathroom
I
and
was
throw
like,
up or something.
if Mariah walks away, she's the only person you don't follow.
Exactly.
You only shoot her, film her when she wants to be filmed.
On scene.
And when she walks into the booth or when she walks into the room to
Yeah.
write. And so she was running around being like throwing up.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then running back in. And none of the band really knew.
Not really, yeah.
Brooke, did
think
you
so.
know? You knew.
She knew, yeah.
We did, you knew, and Carlos.
I think at that point, it's
Yeah.
like you kind of got to like let some people know.
Let people know. Because she was like projectile vomiting every
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Only so much you can hide.
But I woke up one morning and for some reason I just couldn't sleep.
Mhm.
Maybe because it was just so chill. I mean,
Mhm.
woke up one morning and going out to Jackson Hole, I'd never been there my entire life. And we stayed out
Mhm.
way in the country. Like it
Mhm.
wasn't Jackson Hole, it was like something else.
Mhm.
And I woke up, saw the sunrise, and there's like this valley, like the Teton Mountains,
Mhm.
and there's just horses everywhere. And I was just driving on this road
Mhm.
by myself to this coffee shop, and
Mhm.
I just cried.
Yeah.
I cried so much.
But even getting there, setting bags down, and then like going in the backyard, like that change of pace was like absolutely so
It
refreshing.
was insane.
So what about that? How does that happen?
I don't know. I think there's some things that I think sometimes our souls or our minds, and it may be a mixture of both. Like we don't always let ourselves like release. I think the way I look at it is like coffee. Like when you make
Mhm.
coffee, you're extracting something out of it,
Right?
and then you have to dispose of
Yeah.
like the rest of the coffee
Right.
grind to make another coffee.
Exactly.
So I think sometimes we get left with all of that stuff sitting
Mhm.
inside of our minds and
Mhm.
our souls and our hearts and our whatever.
Yeah.
And we have to get rid of it. And I think when it stays too long, it rots. It's
Totally.
like toxic, right?
Yeah.
So for
Bitterness.
creatives, it's like you have finding those things to like, how do you
How do you
can-
refuel?
continually refuel, but also how do you, because sometimes we've been in places where like nothing is happening,
Mhm.
nothing is working.
Right.
We're not okay.
Yeah.
And you still have to work.
Totally.
You still got to do it. And so, I think an ebb and flow is create as much as you can when you feel it.
Yeah. That's great.
So that when you don't feel it, you have the remnants of it.
Mhm. Yeah,
You know
but
what I
I think that you're really good at something that I really value in you is that you know when to change something.
Okay.
So like we need to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Or this look, we've been sitting on it too long. Or it's not even time. Sometimes it's like this look is just we need to change it, like
Yeah,
visually.
like a style and
The
art
and
boards,
but it could be anything. Like you're really good at knowing and being in tune with sort of how culture is moving. So how do you do that?
I don't know, to be honest.
Mhm.
Some of it's just a feeling. And
Yeah.
maybe that's not the healthiest because I think sometimes we can be driven in our feeling. Like yesterday, Austin sent me a bunch of stuff, but I was annoyed at something else.
Right.
And so I was not feeling the stuff he was creating.
Right.
And so I try not to destroy things when I'm
Totally.
not feeling it. But I might not like approve something because I'm like, I
Totally.
don't know if I can like see this and feel something good
Mhm.
and this inspires me or at least
Yeah.
accomplishes something.
Yeah.
But I would say this, like what I love about our team now is that I'm not involved in every situation. So when I see stuff like this moment, like just even this photo,
Mhm.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The welcome home photo,
Mhm.
this one right here. And that's Victoire
Mhm.
at team night.
Yeah.
And it's just a photo that's so beautiful.
Mhm.
And we painted our whole auditorium white.
Mhm.
And
Your call.
I wasn't, what?
Your call.
My call. And I took out all of the lighting.
Mhm.
I took out the huge trussing.
You took out the stage,
I took out the stage.
which we'll
We
talk
ripped
about
it
that
out.
later.
Yeah. Took the
I was
stage.
gone,
Yeah.
And I come back to no stage.
You were on maternity leave and Mariah was gone too, right?
Yeah, you were like, let's just rip out the stage.
And I sat down and was I conniving? Did I go behind all of your backs? No, because you weren't here. Your backs were nowhere to be seen. And I sat with my bosses and I said, this is the only moment I'm going to have to do this because they're all gone. And so they get no say. And I had a list of things I was going to do when you guys left.
And guess what? We're back.
And that was one of them. Now you're
Keep
back.
going, keep going. So you were looking at this photo.
Looking at this photo going, I couldn't necessarily explain what I wanted. And this is exactly what I wanted.
Exactly, yeah.
And so we got there. And it was a journey. It was a lot of sitting in the room going, well, what do you want? I'm going, I don't know.
Totally. But the thing is we posted that later than I wanted to. But I know that the content we had 2 days before, even one day before,
Yeah.
was not it.
What do you mean?
I mean, I'm seeing like revisions after revisions, and I'm like, this just isn't it. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to tell the entire church
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we're launching
Yeah.
this Sunday
Yeah.
if it means that it's not on brand with like
Yeah.
the gravity or like the importance of what we're doing.
Yeah. And it matches the emotion.
Exactly. I look
Yeah.
at that photo and I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel that photo,
Yeah.
you know? And so I'm like, I would rather wait to post the right thing
Yeah.
as opposed to posting the wrong thing 2 to 3 days prior
Yeah.
or earlier, you know?
And you know, it's interesting. So like, how do I achieve that thing? I'm not
Yes.
entirely sure sometimes. It
Okay.
is a feeling. And so it is a feeling of like I'm someone who in almost every room that I walk into, I'm affected by the volume of the noise and the lights.
Our sensitive guy.
I'm a sensitive guy. So I walk into rooms and like,
You're like,
I walk
too
in the room
much.
and leave.
Right.
Because
right.
I'm like, I don't feel at ease there.
right.
My brain literally cannot shut off. There's
Yeah.
too much detail or there's too much. And I'm like, I have to go,
Mhm.
you know? Or I'll sit outside or I'll wait for you.
Right.
Or can we shut the lights down?
Yeah.
And not to be like, oh, I've done this.
Yes.
Yes. Or I won't go back to someone's house or I won't go to a venue because I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like live music.
Yeah. Well, you'll walk in here into our office and you're like, why is this light off? And I'm like, huh?
Every day. That hallway light right outside the studio, I cannot get that dang light to turn on ever.
Well, guess what? We figured it out, sort of. Is it on?
No, because I came in and turned it on this morning.
It's on. It's on
No,
right now.
I turned it on. This morning
No,
I turned
you
it on.
did not.
I swear to you, I walked in late and I turned it on
Okay,
because
well,
I'm trying to take the week off, but it's not working.
here we are.
Here we are.
Okay,
So-
keep going.
I say that we're trying to achieve a feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and the feeling is scarce, and the
Right.
feeling doesn't happen every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
It happens once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But my job is to get us to achieve that feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and as many times as we can achieve it, that is the success of my job.
Totally. But wouldn't you say, like, if you're trying to communicate that to a team, that sounds a little crazy.
For sure.
Like, there's this feeling and we want to achieve this feeling. Like, those are like impossible handles to hold to like create what. And I would say like 9 times out of 10, we do, which is crazy.
We get it. It's a weird thing. So how do you translate, and Austin, you can jump into this too, but how do you translate the lack of direction?
Mm-hmm.
Because when they title it creative director, I'm like, you mean lack of creative director?
No.
I don't give a lot. I might give a photo. Like I told you,
Totally,
like,
yes.
I went out one week with my friends and I ended up in like a disco.
Yeah.
Like,
And you sent me that
I ended
photo.
up in a Chinese restaurant that turns into apparently like a club thing at night.
Yes.
And it wasn't like a club. It was disco music.
Right.
It's cool.
Also.
Also, why was I there? I don't know. But I walk in and it looked like a Tarantino movie. It was like
Right.
all these like Chinese, like it's on Fairfax next to Blue Bottle.
Okay.
Crazy. And then all of these China balls
Mm-hmm.
everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent you a photo at like 1 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
China balls. Like this is it. This is the look.
Yeah.
And then you start deep diving and then
Mhm.
you find photos of China balls.
Right. Find like a wide array.
A wide array. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, no. And then we found this one art exhibit in like Tokyo that had these beautiful
which
China
I
balls.
want to go there.
I know, I want to go there too. And so I was like, this is the emotion. This is the thing we're
Right,
trying to
right.
achieve.
Right.
It's this. I don't want to be blasted by music anymore. I
Right.
don't want
Right.
a forced feeling.
Yes.
I have too many friends I care about
Mhm.
for cringe.
I think that I think what we're both trying to say here is that like creativity is more than, what am I trying to say? Creativity is like the universal language for love
Yes.
or for,
I don't know. I'm not trying to say that.
well, what are
I'm
you
just trying
trying
to say I want China balls.
But I would say like creativity, we're the communications team
Yeah.
for the world.
What I think, yes, for us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Keep going.
What
were
I
you
think
gonna
is
say?
this, as I maybe I'm going into like a more of a ideological difference that I
Mhm.
have with maybe the greater church and what we are,
Okay.
and that I want to walk in and feel like a James Turrell exhibit,
Totally.
right? And that's Kanye, and that's a lot of that Kanye. I was a fan of James Turrell before Kanye, but he
Mhm.
definitely made it more of a thing.
Totally.
I want to walk in and I want the feeling of the room to make me cry,
hmm
or to be cry joy.
To be
with joy,
overwhelming.
to be overwhelming,
Mhm.
and not sonically.
Right. Which that helps.
It helps, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be overwhelming with like a piece,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, and even like team night, I think was a great example because that's where this
Totally.
photo's taken.
Yeah.
I was unpeaceful that night. I was on a long, exhausting phone call.
We're on a
I'm
journey.
on a journey with
Mhm.
a person.
Mhm.
And I was in our office. I was in this room. I was pacing. I was, doing what I was doing.
Very like not at peace.
Not at peace.
Yeah.
And then I walked in and I only got to see the second half
Mhm.
and I was blown away.
Yeah.
By how beautiful it felt.
Mhm.
Like the light, you could feel it walking in. The light was pouring out of the doors and the
But
windows.
it wasn't like you open up the door and it was like,
No.
you know, like it was like, oh my gosh.
How many lights do we have in that room right now? That night, how many lights did we have?
We had 8.
That night we had 2.
That night we had 2.
We had two
That gives me
lights that night?
it gives me chills.
Oh my gosh, me too.
It gives me chills. And right now we have 8 in that room because
We have the 3 big fixtures now.
so just 3. Yeah, 3 big ones. And that's it.
That's crazy.
Before, how many lights did we have in that room?
45 million, 100 zillion, blah, blah, blah.
50?
So many, like 30, 50.
50.
Like hard to
Yeah.
count. Like really, honestly,
really hard
like
to
hard to count.
So, and this room is an example because I think this room is like a metaphor
It is.
for our the way we create is that
Mhm.
we've now moved from like this chaos thing
Totally.
of like hitting everyone with information all the time and get to this, get to this, get to this, get to this. I was like, I don't even really like, I want it to be so easy to understand that it's
Yes.
like, that you understand it in a moment,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And that I think it's like what chefs do with food.
Right.
Like you're telling a story, but
Mhm.
can I taste it?
Yes.
And I'm going, if we're really trying to help people understand something that is so ethereal
Mhm.
and so spiritual,
Mhm.
they have to feel in their spirit,
Right.
not sonically, not visually.
Mhm.
It's got to like almost be like something that hits their skin.
Right. That's really beautiful.
That's all I got.
That's beautiful.
Thank you so much.
I love
I have
that.
another question for you.
Okay.
How was being a mom? How has
Oh.
being a mom made you a better creative? You spoke to it a little bit, but maybe you could go
Little bit.
deeper on it.
Yeah. I think, well, and you know this, but like had Rooney, and then I was like, oh my gosh, am I supposed to be like a stay-at-home mom all the time?
Yeah, you were
And-
threatening us.
I
You were threatening me.
get out of here.
You too in the booth, Brooke. I was like, good Lord.
But it is like it's a bit of an identity crisis. Like I'm still me, but now I have this like little tiny human
Yeah.
who needs me.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, am I supposed to be a stay-at-home mom? And you're like, do you want to do that? And I'm like, honestly, like if I watch her all day, I'm exhausted. Number one. Number two, like I don't honestly think, not saying that I don't want to spend time with Rooney, but I don't think that I would be like my best self. And so I think that you like really help me see like you are your best self
Yeah.
when you can like be your best person.
Yeah.
And so I'm not my best self when I'm with Rooney 24/7. That's just like
Yeah.
straight up. I'm
Yeah.
my best self when I get to like crush it at work, be creative, like lead a team
Yeah.
and do that. And then I get to come home to her and be the best mom that I can.
Yeah.
And so I'm like my most creative when I get to still have all this output, get input the same way that I would, which is like
Yeah.
through Jesus,
Yeah.
but different outputs. Does that make sense?
You also, yes, it totally makes sense. And I think it's a really great answer. You
Mhm.
also had Rooney right when COVID started.
Yes.
So it wasn't like your few months off for maternity leave was fun.
right.
You were trapped.
Trapped.
So this was like one of this place, my family's place.
Yeah.
We really couldn't go even get coffee for the
For
first few
sure.
months. Like there was
Yeah, for sure.
nothing to do.
Everything was shut down
I don't think people understand. I went to Miami last week to go to VU.
and just popping off.
I don't understand what
I know.
what country that is.
I know. It's definitely a different country.
It was a different wherever Jeff Bezos went on his little rocket ship,
Jeffrey
That
Bezos.
he went there.
Yes.
it was crazy.
But also, I talked to a girl. She actually said she found me through Battle Ready because you were talking about me one time. Hey. And so we Zoomed or whatever. And she was like, I was like, how long has your church been open? She's like,
What?
like last fall. I'm like,
Yeah, you can.
hello, what? So keep going.
So I don't even know what I was talking about. So LA was just completely different. So you started
Mhm.
bringing Rooney to the
Mhm.
office.
I did, yeah.
So Rooney just like I held Rooney for an hour while you would go to work,
Mm-hmm.
and I would do all my emails in one of the lobbies where there was
Mhm.
sunlight during the winter.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you would come and get her, and then someone else would have her.
Mhm.
And she grew up really social.
She did. She
The-
does.
The girl is a like social party animal now.
She loves people.
And you see other kids in LA
Yes.
who had kids, and
But
they're
that-
afraid of
that
other
was a
people.
huge like calculated risk that Eric and I had to take. And
Yeah.
we're like, oh my gosh, parenting starts now for us.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of think like, oh, they don't have a opinion or a say yet. But it really did start really early on for us because, and we talked to your dad about this. We talked to Pastor Irwin. We were like, we think that not having her meet people will impact her from a socially developmental standpoint. Social developmental standpoint. That seems like really harmful. And he's like, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And so it was like, yes, we had to risk her or us like catching the virus, but I thought that the greater risk was her social development impact. Like I thought that would be worse.
Yeah.
And so we had her meet people, and we were like, come on over, come meet her. And so you know, it's like you see, we've met kids around the same age of us as Rooney, and they're bizarre.
Yeah.
It's like
and
Brooke's laughing.
And they're
super needy, and they don't want to be around other kids or parents or anybody. And so I'm like, I'm grateful that we took that calculated risk for her to meet people.
Worst part of being on a creative team?
What a funny question.
It's a funny question. Wait, but let me ask you another question before.
Okay.
So, do you feel any pressure to raise Rooney to know Jesus?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, here's my thing. Jesus has impacted my life.
Right.
And he has changed me.
Yeah.
And I have a relationship with him.
Yeah.
And I hope that relationship speaks volumes to Rooney.
Yeah.
You know, like I hope that the life that I live out is not like, I hope it is impactful, but I hope it's also inspiring for her.
Yeah, I hope it's contagious.
Exactly. And I hope that it sparks questions in her, and I hope that she becomes curious about it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's...
No, I think it's a great answer. I think I was talking to someone the other day about, they're like, okay, so your dad's a pastor, so how were you raised?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, on one side, my mom was very, very fire and brimstone.
Believe this.
Mm-hmm. You need to believe this. You need to love God. You need to be in church. You need to do this.
Right.
And of course, as a child, you're like, if I have to do it, I don't love it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And my dad was on the other side of, I think once he became really aware that I was going through like a spiritual journey of like questioning, does God exist? He very much so was like, oh, what do you want to go and learn about? I was like, I want to learn about Buddhism. So I have a Buddhist day camp. I went and
you ended up not really liking that.
No, I was fascinated by it. I said, I came back saying, I don't think he ever meant to be a god. I think he only meant to give like I think Buddha was like the first Tony Robbins, like self-help guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I think not belittling it. But I think he was more about life transformation than he was actually about worship me kind of
Exactly.
I did Scientology. I said that wasn't for me early on. He dropped me off at a Scientology day camp.
Oh my gosh, Aaron, I did not know that.
Yeah, we flew to Japan, and he left me during one of his sessions with at the Shinto temple to study with the priest there.
Cool. That seems safer than the Scientology drop-off camp situation.
It was actually really fun. We drank a lot of tea. It was actually really cool.
Okay.
It was really cool to do the tour. They brought me in and took a lot of time to spend with me. It was really cool. That was the first time I went to Tokyo. I was in Thailand and with so many a range of mystics and all of these different things. I think for me, I was like, look, I really do believe God exists. I think I don't understand why it has to be Jesus or why it has to be the church.
Right.
So I think that started the beginning of the journey. My parents were really open-handed. I'm sure my mom was having a panic.
Oh, absolutely.
But because they were so open with it, so free, they're like, if it's real, you'll come back to it.
Right.
If it's real, it will find you.
Right.
And you will find it.
And it did.
And so I don't know. I don't necessarily feel the pressure of it, but I feel more pressure to go, is she safe? Does people love her?
Yeah.
Treat her with respect.
Yeah, exactly.
She understand the questions that she's trying to ask. Does she feel like she has a space where she can ask questions?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
What's it like to work with Aaron and Irwin?
Aaron's like, tell me about me.
You don't have to. You can.
No, I
You don't have to answer.
I love this question. Well, number one, you're my best friend, and I love doing this live with you. Look at me.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at questions.
No, you're dancing because you're like, yeah, she loves me. And I do love Pastor Irwin, and I do think that we're family.
Yeah.
Right.
No, we are. We're family. We
and
literally
so there's that.
spend holidays together.
Yes.
7 of us, 9 of us now. I don't know
and
how
go
many
on
kids
vacations together. It's awesome. It's the best thing. So I think with that, you see the good and the bad.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's
and the ugly.
Totally.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's not corporate by any means. It's not like, hey, boss, I'm showing up and this is what, it's not like checklisty. It's like, I'm also going through this. And we like, sometimes we'll talk about what we're going through for hours out of the day. And then we get to like what our jobs are.
Yeah.
And so I love the family dynamic. I don't know if I could survive in a corporate setting, but Eric does. And that's like great. And he's crushing it. And he's crushing it. He's like, I love my boss and I love my CEO and, all that good stuff.
Yeah. He's talking about MNEs and GPRDs.
And we are like, and you do such a good job at asking him questions and staying involved. I'm kind of like this at him, like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? But I absolutely, that's a long answer for what I'm actually
what's it like?
Say.
It sucks or not?
It is awesome.
It's awesome?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love it.
There's been tough moments.
Absolutely. But I think it's like our loyalty to each other has like outgrown the ugly parts,
Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
What can you think of a big creative failure that we've had? There are probably it's probably so numerous we can't think of one.
Yeah.
But what would be a big creative failure that we had?
I don't know. Austin, does anything come to your mind right off the bat?
I can think of like specific moments that it's like, oh wow, we really dropped the ball there. But as far as like a creative failure, like a look that was just like,
I don't think of like
work.
I think it's mostly like, I don't know if this is like okay to say, but sometimes it's the person that we chose.
Austin just pointed and went, "Yep, that was it."
But is that okay to say? Like sometimes it's just like, oh, we invested for too long into the wrong person.
Yeah.
And to me, I don't, is that a failure?
No.
I don't like see that. I don't think that would be a failure. That was just maybe like a lack of wisdom.
Yeah. My thing is this, if because Nicole asked, like, talk about how you know, and you kind of asked me that, like, how do I know creatively? I don't always know. I think it's sometimes just a second nature, right?
Mm-hmm. An instinct. Mm-hmm.
And I really do play with the instinct.
Mm-hmm.
In the moment I create something, and the moment we create something, it's no longer mine anymore.
Right.
It's theirs. It's the people. It's whoever likes it or doesn't like it.
Which is like honestly pretty crazy because for how like tight control you are, you really know when to relinquish it.
Yeah. Like Sundays are not for, not that I don't enjoy Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
Sundays are not for me.
They're for your friends?
They're for my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for everyone else,
Yeah.
And I used to be a psychopath on Sundays,
mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to like show that out. So people are not failures. Like people wouldn't be our failures.
Right.
We have failed people sometimes,
yes,
and people have failed us.
Yes,
right. And so I think there's a mutual failing,
right?
And I think there's moments where we didn't fail them and they failed us. There's
right.
moments where they didn't fail us, but we failed them.
Right.
And so that's like such a tricky combination,
mm-hmm.
and that. It sucks because so much of what we do, like we can't do all of this by ourselves.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We're not a concert pianist.
Mm-hmm.
We play in an orchestra.
Right.
And sometimes like people show up and they're not mentally there.
Right.
There are days where I have not been mentally there.
Totally.
And so it's like our biggest failures are when we refuse to take a back seat
mm-hmm.
and let someone else lead
mm-hmm.
because we're too arrogant to give it up.
Or vice versa. Like we see that this person needs to take a backseat or take some time.
Yeah.
And then it always ends up, not always ends up, but sometimes it ends up like going poorly.
Yeah. I mean, I never understand when we've had moments where like, hey, you're the head of this creative team. And then, hey, you're not the head of it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You need to take a second and chill.
Yeah.
People get really hurt by that. And people are really offended by that. But I genuinely love when I genuinely have come to love and understand and respect when people go, when my dad or my mom, hey, you're no longer over that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You got to let it go.
Yeah.
You got to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's going to change how you see yourself and how other people see you, but you got to take a break.
Mm-hmm.
It's healthy for you.
Yeah. And you always end up better.
You always end up better.
When you get out of it.
So I think a lot of it is like when our biggest failures are when we tie our identity in the task, right?
Yep.
Not in the team.
Totally. That's really good.
Dang.
That's really good.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I think our creative goal, someone asked this and then we got to wrap because it's 54 and I'll give you your last words. You can say whatever you want. But probably our biggest creative goal, one is to be the creative directors of the whole church, that people steal from us, rip us off, and are inspired by us. Mm-hmm. I'm not mad when people steal. Mm-hmm. I have been mad when people steal.
Totally.
But I've stolen, I've borrowed, and I will continue to do so.
Yep.
And as I do that, I will hopefully homage the people that I have borrowed from, and are proud that I borrowed and then
Exactly.
evolved it to something that's unrecognizable to them.
Right.
And go, hey, it started with this idea, and now it's like this is who we are. But I think the creative goal would be that Mosaic, the same way that MSC has its own band, Mosaic has its own creative arm that Adidas can hire out, and Fear of God, and that, I don't know, Soul Cycle or Soho House, or all these entities can hire us out to be the creative directors for their companies.
Totally.
Because I think that's the future. Is I think we are so good at telling story,
Right.
and and not to belittle it and sell things, but to go like, hey, we can actually help you tell the story, because this is the thing we care about the most is the story of, and understanding how people feel and react and are inspired, and because my thing would be like, I would love to build a creative agency that's hundreds of people. Any kid can. They're no longer just serving at church. They're an intern at the agency.
Right.
And then they serve the church on Sunday. And everything we do is like working towards what we're building at Mosaic, but we're also like achieving tasks that fund us, that we never have to be hired by Mosaic.
Right. Love that.
That would be the dream. Okay, last
And
words.
it's hilarious to see like companies and brands, and we're like, we could do that better.
Yeah.
And we could.
We could.
So
We
in
can.
conclusion, hire us. I'm just kidding.
No, I think so. We've almost done it a few times.
Super close.
We've gone we pitched over COVID, and they were like, you're at church? And I was like,
It's a little tough to get.
we learned a lot.
Yes.
So we kind of have to be a different entity,
right.
and then we'll kind of be a part of the church.
And then we'll write hook 'em being like,
We're
the church.
We love Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I agree though. So,
Cool.
okay. You got anything? Any last words?
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for doing this.
Mm-hmm.
We were supposed to shoot this Tuesday. Tuesday. I said
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
You always do that.
I do?
Yeah, Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay, so Tuesday.
Hopefully this was helpful.
And then we're filming it today.
Mhm.
And it's going to come out probably next week.
Or the week after.
Who knows?
Who knows?
But I'm excited. So thank you for listening. We're so grateful for you. Thank you to every single person who subscribes to the podcast, who has gone to our new YouTube channel. We have a new home, and checked it out. Hit subscribe, liked a video. I don't know, send it to a friend. We are also on iTunes, wherever you're listening to this, Spotify, YouTube, all the other ones. We are so grateful for us. But go to iTunes, where podcasts are held, and rate and review this pod. It helps people find us, and we're over 800 reviews. It's incredible.
That's so good.
It's incredible. So I'm really excited. Do that. And also thank you to the 140 people who sponsor and donate each week. Anchor, who is owned by Spotify, has a really cool podcast platform, and they make it really easy for people to help fund what we do. This is its own thing. Battle Ready is its own thing. I don't get paid to do this. But you guys donate, and it makes it really fun, and we're really grateful, and hopefully we'll be able to pour into that a little bit more over time. So we are grateful for you. We love you. Thank you so much. Share this with a friend on creativity. And what else? Oh! The Genius of Jesus.
Hello.
I
Coming
am doing
in
a
hot.
book club, The Genius of Jesus. Just so you're not bummed. My dad might say, hey, he might not. You're just getting me. You're getting me. The Genius of Jesus read by a normal person. No, but we're going to do a book club after each chapter, do a little Zoom session. I am going to put in the link tree in our bio on Battle Ready Podcast Instagram, the form that you can fill out, and I'm basically just going to email you guys updates of like when we're jumping on Zoom, and that's pretty much it. I'll let you know what merch and stuff is, but I don't really send any emails. I've never done it before from Battle Ready. So sign up for that. My goal is that we create such a great kind of environment that you guys can do that with your friends and build this thing. This book deserves to be blown up.
That's right.
So if you haven't bought it yet, pre-order the book, The Genius of Jesus, and maybe we'll get a Battle Ready book someday.
Oh,
That would be cool. That would be real cool.
That would be real cool.
All right. We
Here we
love
go.
you. See you soon.